What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. Power lines that are kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg. I'm joined today with Ross Nix. How you doing today, Ross?
Yeah, I'm doing well, really well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So, if you haven't watched any of these episodes of Dan Does Deals, Chance Encounters, the way it works is first I go through the 5 different motivations that commercial investors generally have for their next acquisition, and then I go through the 6 different roles that someone's likely to play in a co-GP situation, and so that way we know exactly how the guest fits into our business. But one thing I like to do, because I think it's so important for anybody's success, it's to make sure that you introduce yourself. I think being able to introduce yourself is very important. So Ross, can you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. My name's Ross Nix. I'm a Los Angeles-based investor. I've invested as an LP in about 200 units. In my previous life, I was a pilot in the Navy for 12 years, recently got out, and now I work in the biotech industry here in LA, and looking to move up into the general partner space from the LP space right now.
Excellent, excellent. So that brings me to the first section here, and I need to clip on that, and then boom, there it is. So I need to scoot over a bit. That shows I'm Canadian. I see that the dandoesdeals.com thing has totally disappeared, but whatever. So the 5 different motivations, I go through motivations first in these interviews because beginners, they'll know their motivation, but they won't necessarily know what role they're going to play. So the 5 different motivations are: first one, preserving your purchasing power. So if you depend on your wealth for cash flow, and that's how you make ends meet, then you're going to be mostly concerned about preserving your purchasing power. In other words, there is like a nest egg of wealth, and inflation is the enemy. That's what will basically spoil the entire party when it comes to purchasing power, especially if it's not deployed inside an asset. The second reason for wanting part of a commercial real estate property is my one, which is that I realize as a high earner from tech, I can go ahead and get that high salary, but then I'm paying the government a whole whack of money in the form of tax before I can even deploy it into the generation of wealth. So it made more sense to me to just focus on being a co-GP, and then that way I'm accumulating wealth in return for the time and effort I put in. The next reason is the most common one. People will say that they want to fast track the retirement. I have a hard time accepting somebody in their early 20s, for example, saying that they're trying to fast track their retirement because they don't really have anything to work with yet. Maybe they have student debt, but so that's one thing that's implied. But the bigger one is that if you're fast tracking your retirement, there is an end goal in mind. Okay, so it's not a matter of you're just going to become an accredited investor or something like that, and hit the brakes if, instead of fast tracking your retirement, which is where you do want to quit once you have enough cash, if you are so ambitious that you want to buy your entire hometown, then that is exactly the type of ambitious person for motivation number 4. They're going to keep on going into their 90s. The hustle is the entire point, to accumulate and accumulate. Whereas the last group, some people have a section of society that they really want to assist, and they realize that the accumulation of wealth is by far the best vehicle to make a real impact in society. So they decide, okay, let's get some commercial properties, let's get some wealth so that maybe when you die or maybe when you're alive or something, you can help that area of society, or perhaps it's animals or plants or who knows what it is. But those are the 5 different motivations. And out of those, Ross, what best describes your situation? What resonates most with you as far as motivations go?
Yeah, I think I fit into the last two categories there. I don't ever picture myself stopping working. My definition of work may change over time and my focus may change, but sitting on the beach just with a Mai Tai in my hand doesn't sound like my idea of a good time. So buying my own hometown, which is Atlanta, Georgia, I think that's quite a bar to get over. But I think I'm in this for the long run, and I'd love to still be doing this 30 years from now. In the real estate space. And as far as the last piece, helping people, I really like the idea of taking an underperforming asset that's not being managed well, that hasn't received a lot of capital investment, and is not a great experience for tenants. I love the idea of taking that and bringing it up to the most efficient operating model possible, and improving the value for investors, but also improving the experience for the tenants there. I think that as homeownership becomes less and less affordable for a huge section of society, there's going to be more and more opportunity for people to do that. And it's going to become more and more important as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something I feel strongly about.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And I guess we're kind of birds of a feather, and I'm kind of demonstrating it here. It's like, do I look like a beach person? I lived in Taiwan for 15 years, and so I had plenty of
Oh,
heat
wow.
back then. Yeah, and it was a lot. I was fatter too, so felt hot all the time. Just had AC blasting. It was terrible. It was awful. But now I'm up in Canada where. The outdoors are trying to kill you six months of the year, but with
Right.
cold. So what can you do? But anyway, let's get back to some real estate. And what I've got here is I've got my Dan Does Deal die, and it's got the 6 different roles that somebody could have on a GP team. And I like to start with a repositioner, because that's the one where if I can get it, maybe if I go like that, okay, yeah, there we go. Cool. So repositioner, that's mostly who I help and what I try to do. Everybody has to have a bunch of deal flow and get that all worked out. Okay, but what a repositioner is doing is they're doing the acquisitions, but the bigger thing is that they're doing the underwriting, which means they're doing their math. Okay, they're figuring out, okay, so is this actually a good property where it's functioning with what's going on, and is there any room for upside? So the repositioner does have to understand the entire die, and that's something that's missing from some of these pieces. But for example, one way to find upside is through operations. And I got the money going down the toilet to emphasize that the money is part of operations, managing the money, managing the marketing to make sure the vacancy rate is low. These are all different roles in operations in a co-GP team, and the repositioner has to understand those enough, but has to find somebody to actually operate it, especially if they're remote based like me. But the other way to get upside, which is very traditional, is to get a contractor team to fix it up, and so that way you can charge more in rent because the place is nicer. That's the service that landlords do that I think is way too often overlooked. It's like most people would pay a maid if they could afford it, but
Yes.
but why do they have a problem, paying a landlord who's responsible for making sure that there's no trash in the hallways? But that's not the contractor, that's operations. But anyway, so if you make the place nicer, you can charge more rent, and there's some upside. But if you're remote based, you're going to need a local as well. Okay, that's for oversight of your operations. Make sure they're not cutting corners. Make sure they're all telling the truth. They're not spoofing photos or anything like that. And also making sure that the contractors are keeping to schedule. There's no funny business going on. But usually when people think about owning an apartment complex, they think of these guys. But the truth is there's still more to it. First is there's going to be a financier, because usually the repositioner is going like, hey, can I borrow, like, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars for this property that costs tens of millions of dollars? And the financier will be like, well, okay, but who's your sponsor? And if you're a beginner, you're going to be like, what? Well, especially because like so many people in the coaching industry here. They kind of skip over that until you're pretty far in. But if you want to get a loan, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset. So even if Elon Musk, richest man in the world now, decides he wants a 350 unit apartment complex, well, he's got a problem if he wants a loan and he doesn't have somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. But those are the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. And if I don't break everything by doing that, boom, I'm back. Okay, then we can ask you, what's your core competency and what are you looking to add to the GP team, Ross?
Yes. So in my day job right now, I spend a lot of time trying to connect numbers on a spreadsheet to reality to make sure that what's modeled is actually going to be what plays out over the course of the next couple of years. So taking that experience onto the real estate side, I think that's what I can offer team. Right now, I spend a lot of time looking through other people's underwriting, seeing how I can pick apart and seeing what assumptions they've made that I don't think are actually going to come to fruition. So I think I can bring that to any team. And depending on the size of the deal, for a smaller deal, I could play the financier role to a certain extent because I've got a fair amount of equity I've saved up over the years and a decent balance sheet for a smaller deal.
Right, and that's something I don't usually remember to point out, which is that if my glare is so bad, oh, there we go. Now we can see there's a financier side.
Yeah.
Being a capital raiser is also a form of financier. But the important thing, just so you know, for legal reasons, that's not like capital raising on its own is not enough. So you need to have the underwriting skills or something that Ross is describing if you want to be on the right side of the law, which you do because they can take your money, and that's bad. So those are the 6 different roles. That's how you would partner up. So as far as sweetheart properties, the ideal property, the one that's easier for you to say yes to than others, what kind of unit count and geographic areas would you be looking at?
So right now I'm focused in the Mountain West. I think that a lot of other areas of the country are receiving a tremendous amount of attention right now. But if you look at the Mountain West, if you start in Denver, draw a line up to Cheyenne, to Helena, over to Boise, down to Salt Lake, and back to Denver, that particular geographic area, I think over the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to be the real growth story. And it already is for some of those metropolitan areas. So focused in that area. And for the first deal as a GP, looking in that 30 to 50 unit range to keep the capital raising side of it a bit smaller, and then Class C with a light value add component to it.
Okay, awesome. And you and I met through Brian's meetup, if my recollection serves. I found that through LinkedIn. Is LinkedIn the best way to reach you, or is there a website that's better? Or
LinkedIn is the best. I'm pretty active on there. So Ross Nix, I should come right up. I think there's only 2 Ross Nixes on there. So that'll be me.
all right, awesome. That makes it easy peasy. And for those of you in the audience, I have a favor to ask, which is somewhere down there. Is it? No, hang on. It's down here, isn't it? Down here on YouTube, there's a big, stupid red button, and I hate it. What I need you to do is I need you to click on it, and then that way it turns gray, and then it's not stupid. It's awesome, and awesome things are good. So please click on that link because it doesn't cost you anything. What it does is it means that my videos might end up on your list of suggestions, but the bigger thing is I want YouTube to pay for these videos instead of me. Okay, so if I start paying me, that's much better. And again, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. It only means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but there's no guarantee of that even. But that you'd be doing me a great big favor. But Ross, thank you very much for that. The only other thing I have for you is without breaking 506, well, basically the SEC restrictions. I was about to say 506B, which is you can't be enticing investors. Okay, the SEC says no enticing investors, so don't do that. But everybody in real estate can help one type of person more than anybody else. And is it possible for you to describe who you can help the most? Like maybe it's beginners, or who is it that you're looking for right now the most?
Yeah, Dan, if there's anything I've learned over the past year or so since I've been into this, is that for the limited limited people looking to become limited partners. There are a lot of people out there trying to steer them into their deals, but there aren't a lot of people out there that are trying to steer limited partners into the right deals. So if you're considering becoming an LP in a deal, reach out to me. I'll go through the underwriting with you. I'll tell you what to watch out for so that you can get your money into a solid deal.
Excellent, excellent. That's great, and thank you again for joining me today, Ross. This has been a great chance encounter.
Yeah, Dan, I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks. See ya.